Well, hello, welcome to Dragonheart. No Che this week, I'm afraid. I'm standing in as host. Che, of course, refuses to play if Jordan Davies is not 100% fit. So he's on the bench, I'm afraid. But I do have the other Long, Bill Long. Hi, Bill. How are you doing?
Hi, Mark. Not too bad. Slowly recovering from my 24-hour gaming marathon that I did last week, which meant I couldn't do Dragonheart. Uh, that was interesting and probably slightly less arduous than watching Wrexham in the 2019-2020 season.
Well, you've got a point there, to be fair. How did it go, your marathon?
It was good. I got to about the sort of let's say about 3/4 of the way through ish and realized I had a full day's worth of work left, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. So that was a bit of a wall, but other than that, yeah, pretty good.
Brilliant, excellent. Well, hopefully this show won't be a feat of endurance to listen to. We'll be looking at the last two games Wrexham played, impressive wins against Aldershot and then Kings Lynn. We'll be looking at the rather more ugly subject of flares at football grounds and also looking at our newfound Scouse Welshman. So fasten your seatbelts and get ready for a bumpy long ride. It's Dragonheart. Dragonheart? Dragonheart. Yeah, there you go, everybody. As you can tell, this is live. It's not actually live, it's pre-recorded. And yes, I've kept this in the edit. Why? Nobody really knows for sure. It is Dragonheart.
I'm Liam McLindon, and this is Dragonheart.
Yes, that's right. It's Dragonheart, the new name for an old favourite. Well, the Dravens faced the Phoenixes on Saturday, of course. Wrexham playing Aldershot Town. And, well, let's be honest, Bill, it was a bit of a mismatch, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. You'd swear it was two teams from two different divisions, wouldn't you, really, playing in a cup competition? It almost had a bit of a feel of a weird situation. But it's the performance that people have been crying out for the whole season. You know, we've played teams and looked like we should have smashed them and ended up going from 1-1 to 1-1. Like the Torquay game that's in my background being a case in point. But finally we've had that performance at home to give the fans a bit of a reward for their loyalty.
I must be honest, I was a bit worried when I saw that Tom O'Connor wasn't fit, because I think he's made a real impact coming in. He gives the midfield a different sort of shape. It really releases Luke Young and Jordan Davies. But it worked well because Young filled that role well, and because James Jones came in and showed a lot of energy, didn't he? As the assist for the first goal, he virtually had an assist for the fourth because he ran his man down and forced the error, allowed Mullin to get the ball and score. So O'Connor's absence wasn't really felt that much.
No, it wasn't. And, that was the kind of performance from Jones that we were expecting when we bought him. I'm not saying he's had a poor season by all means, but heard Ollie Palmer talking earlier in the week in one of his interviews, talking about how the league is very different, and it's all right if you're a big bruising centre forward. You might get used to the conditions in this league pretty quickly, but maybe it's taken James Jones a bit of time and a little time on the bench to sort of get used to having a bit of competition. And it seems to have done him well because he played well in both games, didn't he? But especially in the Aldershot match.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really sure his energy is terrifying. And I mean, in that Aldershot match, of course, as we remember, Jordan Davies, sort of missed two close-range headers, but scored from 25 yards. And that last header that he had was, I mean, Jones' ridiculous energy and stamina in added time, sprinting from the middle of the pitch around the outside of the fullback in order to give the overlap for a cross. I mean, he's just fantastically fit, isn't he? It's higher levels that we're getting, from bringing in players from higher divisions. It's not just technique, it's maybe also fitness and physical conditioning.
Yeah, I think we're coming towards the end of the season as well, Mark. And, that's really showing, isn't it? Maybe these performances aren't actually any worse or better than they were early in the year. But as other teams are going on with, like you say, the lower fitness, lower physical ability, it's showing through. And we're starting to look really good. I try not to get excited. I'll bring the dreaded titleometer out again, the Bill Long patented titleometer. I think we're up to about, let's put it at 6 for being 6 points behind Stockport. Still a long way to go, but performances like that for the rest of the season are going to go a long way, aren't they? Who was your man of the match? It was hard to choose, wasn't it?
Everybody except Rob Lane, because I had nothing to do. Can't remember who he picked now. I think it was Che who picked it in the commentary, and he picked Mullin. And clearly he scored 2 goals. I thought Davies and Young were excellent at that match. Can I ask you a question about the titleometer? The way you said, I suppose we'll call it 6, makes me sound like it's not founded in science. Would I be right in this?
Well, there is no spreadsheet behind the titleometer. There is no algorithm. You're the numbers guy, Mark. I like to have a feel for things. I go off instinct. That's why we make a good trio usually when there's the 3 of us, because I feel like Chase somewhere like in the cynical area, so we've got all bases covered.
Nice. So it's a scale of 1 to 10, isn't it?
It is a scale of 1 to 10. 0 being Brian Hughes' reign. And 9 being the unfortunate playoff season and the 98-point season, and 10 is obviously we go up. So let's see where we are between. But seriously, we are starting to look like a title contention team, aren't we? I think it's the first time since the playoff final season that we're really grinding results out. And I think we could talk a little bit more about it when we get to the Kings Lynn game, but there was a lot of times that people moaned during that season, but ultimately, as much as we weren't completely successful, it was a successful year, wasn't it? To finish 5th and finish in a playoff final, or 4th, or wherever it was we ended up finishing that year, that is as successful as you can get without going up. So let's just hope this is a successful team and a successful year, really.
Well, exactly. You've touched on something that I was wondering about in your last couple of sort of comments. This idea of being fitter, you mentioned before, and maybe being able to get the benefits of that. And then as well, you say people complaining in a 98-point season. I think, in my recollection, part of that was that we, in the final throes of that season, didn't quite go toe-to-toe and keep up with Fleetwood. I can't help feeling that we've often had seasons where we've petered away quite badly, in the National League.
Yeah,
I remember us winning the league, the FA Trophy, and then just looking on our knees afterwards, really looking exhausted. Yeah. The first season, the results fell to pieces. The wheels fell off Dean Saunders' team in the most spectacular manner possible. I mean, remember the great impact that he had at the start of the season when he came in and we were winning hand over fist. In the last 20 games of that season, we won 3. And we drew 7 and lost 10. So, we're quite good at having the wheels falling off our season.
Yeah.
Like I said, in the National League, if you look at the season we won the FA Trophy as well, we obviously that was the year, like you say, we still finished 5th and still get into the playoff final. Definitely a successful season. But, at the end of it, after the FA Trophy, I remember we went to Hyde and lost 2-0 and just looked like the tank was empty. Then we drew at home to Macclesfield, won against Mansfield, lost at Woking, beat Cambridge, lost at home to Kidderminster, drew at home to Braintree. These are not great. Lost at Mansfield last game of the season. And it really impressed me that we rallied well enough to beat Kidderminster in the playoffs, because that's a poor run-in, isn't it?
And they were looking fantastic at the time, Kidderminster as well, weren't they? It wasn't as if they were pushovers. I know maybe they'd lost a bit of steam having not got automatic, but they did look really good at that point.
Yeah. And then look at Gary Mills. The way we started his first season, and then the way that we fell to pieces. And again, okay, let's have another little count of this. Oh no, right, Kevin Wilkinen. Okay, Kevin Wilkinen season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Last 12 games, we only won 4, and they were all actually under the caretaker managers after he'd gone. So again, there's a bad tail off, and we ended up finishing was it 10th, I think it was, that season. And then the Gary Mills season, which was crazy because it started so well, ends really quite ugly manner. 1 win and 1 draw out the last 6 league games. So
wow,
we tend to fall apart, except when Keats has been manager, to be honest, in that he's rescued us twice. But then, having said that, when he left us, we fell apart. So
yeah,
it's it'd be nice to see us pull it together and look strong and have that physicality and that ability to keep going, wouldn't it? Really.
Yeah, it would. And funny story about the trophy season. I remember that Hyde game really well because I'd actually gone on a school trip to Barcelona with work. Missed the trophy final. There was a sneaky part of me that was almost hoping all that snow that we'd had was going to stop me from going to the Barcelona trip, and I'd be able to sneak a ticket because obviously I'd committed before we'd actually got to the final. And I ended up watching it with a couple of the lads that were on the trip, huddled around an internet cafe computer watching S4C, putting like euros in the machine to keep it going, sort of thing. Thought, right, I got to make up for missing out on this. So I went to Hyde thinking, it'll be a good day out, just outside Manchester, short trip, couple of bevs, and we got absolutely spanked, didn't we, by a team that ended up going down the year after. So it was
the way they went down as well, it was like it was their birthright, wasn't it? They were determined to get relegated as early as possible.
Oh yeah. Did Rob Ogilvie score a hat-trick the year after? Was it 5-2 or something like that? Yeah.
Well, I mean, that
rare Rob Ogilvie hat-trick. The rare Rob Ogilvie hat-trick.
Rare Rob Ogilvie goal. No, I didn't say that. He's been a guest on the show. He's a lovely bloke. I mean, Hyde, we battered them the next season, and that was the season we finished lower than ever in our history. So, go figure.
Yeah.
I just think the same when Keats left, just to continue the theme, that when Keats, apart from when Keats rescued us, we tend to finish badly. When he left, there were 9 games left. And the next game, we should have won at Bromley, and we let in an equaliser in added time. Then we beat Maidstone 1-0. And then there were 7 games left that season. How many points did we get out of those 7 games?
6.
3.
Oh,
that was quite the tail off, wasn't it, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so, that's not great, is it?
Quiz question. Under which manager did we have our best ever finish in the National League?
I know we tailed off in the 98-point season, but is it Morel? Did he, we still got 98 points, so surely...
Last 5 games of the season, who gave us the best finish?
Saunders.
The man you mocked. Brian Hughes.
Oh, Brian Hughes, right.
4 wins out of 5 that season. And
when he came in as caretaker, was it?
No, when he was manager. So he came in after Graham Barrow, and I thought did well to sort of keep us afloat because we'd had such an amount of silly turmoil, hadn't we? And he came in, he won 4 of his first 5 games, then had the bad spell that cost us. We lost 4 out of 5 games, but then we won 4 out of 5.
Right.
He was in charge for 15, and he won 9. Won 9, drew 1.
It's not too bad, that actually, is it?
Not bad at all. No, I think Hughes did very well that season. The problem was he then spent badly in the summer. He had a good budget and spent it on players who were inferior to what we'd had before, and that was what did for him. I felt sorry for him, but I feel sorry for him because people forget that first season he came in and I would say did a decent job.
I think it's coloured by the fact that he was given such a long contract. I think if he'd have been just given 1 year, people might not look so badly at, or maybe a year and a half, 2 years. I don't think people would have looked so badly at it. I think everyone was a little bit perplexed, weren't they? That 3 years seemed like a long time for someone who, had done well at the end of the season, but maybe wasn't quite up to it.
I think there was a sense as well of, I feel a little sorry for him. The whole foot golf thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that didn't have anything to do with whether he'd be a manager or not. It was just a little business venture. I mean, Francis Lee in the 70s was the big Man City star man. And was it him? Actually, it was him. I'll tell you. Yeah, it was him. He had a business called Thingamy Wig, which was a hat with an integral wig for people to wear, like seriously. I mean, people all say, "Oh, isn't he an entrepreneur? Isn't he clever?" Well, Hughes had a little sideline. He did a little extra job. By all accounts, the main reason he's getting in there is because Carl Darlington had coached him, and he considered him to be one of the very best coaches he'd ever taken through the badges. So,
it's one of those the foot golf thing.
Sorry?
The thing with the foot golfing is people don't care if you're successful, but they do if you're not. It wouldn't even be remembered if you got it out of the league, would it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think there were other candidates that people wanted to see appointed.
Yeah.
But I feel very sorry for him. Although, like I say, he did make the wrong signings in the summer, and I felt it was sort of obvious as it was happening that these signings on paper didn't look right, and on the pitch sadly didn't perform either. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But now we look quite fit. And before we go back to Aldershot, I mean, we've been bringing in over the last week a few new appointments on the physical side of the game. And it is so important. And I'm really pleased to see that sort of infrastructure put in place, because you've got a new first-team conditioning coach. You've got a new first-team physio coming in as well. And, look at the way that with Harry Lennon, I mean, sadly, he's injured again now. But we squeezed a lot of games out of Harry Lennon this season compared to what he's done the last few seasons. We've brought in McFadden, who was not fit, and we seem to be getting him up and running really well. It's pleasing, and hopefully will allow us to bring in maybe some bargains. You rehabilitate a player who's been getting injured with a really strong medical team, and you can get yourself an absolute bargain, can't you?
Yeah, it's a real potential market for us, Mark, really, isn't it? There's going to be teams in League Two and even maybe in League One who can't afford to have passengers, but we've got that money to maybe take a risk on somebody who, to bring a flip side in, we've got Dave Jones in the squad, and it's not quite worked out for him. Yeah. But if it had worked, look at the quality that he could have brought, and like you say, we've seen it with Harry Lennon, and hopefully see it with McFadden. So it's a real potential market that teams at our level can't access because of the money situation, and we've got to use every tool available to us, haven't we? But hopefully, Mark, we won't be in this division next year, and it won't be as much of a problem.
Yeah, precisely. I do like the idea of being able to offer opportunities to players and sort of, like I say, rehabilitate them a bit. I can't help thinking of Glenn Little and thinking, if we'd had the money and expertise to bring in, really strong physical conditioning people, might we have squeezed more out of him. Although I've got to admit the other side of it is we've got to be careful, because if you buy a few players with an injury record and it doesn't work out, you could compromise your squad. But it's a good way possibly to get high quality players slightly lower than they'd expect to be. I mean, Harry Lennon for me is a Football League defender, and it's the injuries that have cost him.
Absolutely.
So those sort of signings. I mean, I can't remember who said it. I remember a long time ago someone said, and I thought it was very true, that players come down to non-league because if they're good, because there's something wrong, whether it's their fitness, whether it's their attitudes, whether it's their behaviour off the pitch. Obviously we got some now who've come because we've sold a good project to them. But, that could be a way in, couldn't it, to offer a player a chance to get himself up and running, get himself fit again. So it's an interesting possibility.
And I think from a human point of view, it's good for us as a club to be able to offer players a second chance. especially these players who've got that real quality and have been a bit unlucky in their careers. Why can't they come to a club like Wrexham and rebuild their career?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Saunders used to do it using his connections and bringing in players who were, maybe not quite what they were, but then we didn't have the wherewithal to build on that. So you get Patrick Sufo, I think we talked about before, with his massively swollen knee, and players like John Curtis who couldn't really keep it going to the end of the season, and Matt Jansen and different people, but he was trying to bring quality in by using his contacts and maybe bring in players who things hadn't gone right for. But yeah, now, we don't have to shop in a bargain bucket, and we can maybe just do some of that business quite judiciously, can't we, I think?
Yeah, definitely.
Should we perhaps go back to the actual Aldershot game, though? Do you think?
Yes,
maybe,
possibly, yeah.
maybe we've got a touch off piste here, haven't we? But, I mean, Mullin looks sharp, didn't he? Back to what he was. He looked tremendous.
Well, yeah, speaking of injuries and stuff, I think there's no way we'd have given him that time off to recuperate,
no. But
he might have broken down if he hadn't have been suspended, and we could have been in real trouble if he'd have broken down at a key time in the season. So I think that break, as much as we didn't want it, has come at a good time. He's looking, like you say, very sharp since he's come back. He's just so quality, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm one of those people, Mark. I like my favourite player of the squad to be somebody nobody else chooses. I don't know why. Maybe it's just a bit of like being a bit defiant, but it's just hard not to love Mullin, isn't it?
Mm. Oh, he's a real class act, isn't he? And he can win games out of nothing. He's hungry.
Yeah.
He feels like the sort of bloke who will turn up on big occasions. And even though he's the glamour player, he's also got terrific desire, hasn't he? I mean, the Notts County game away comes to mind, where he wasn't fully fit. You could see he wasn't quite up to speed. He was having an unlucky time of it, where he should have got a penalty probably in the first half. It wasn't given. He misses a penalty in the second half, which, to be fair to him, it wasn't a bad penalty. It was an excellent save. But but you could just see that he just kept digging deeper and deeper. He was so determined to turn the game around. And I really, it's good to see when you get players maybe who you can forgive someone dropping down a couple of divisions, having the season he had last time, and maybe acting a bit like I'm the big man. But he puts a good shift in, doesn't he?
He does, and there's a quality that I noticed it a little bit against Kings Lynn, really, but. What I absolutely love about him is he chases every single ball, doesn't he? Really, he's constantly looking to any little deflection. If he takes a shot or there's a misplaced pass, like he's not always going to get it, but just having someone with that attitude to go and chase the ball down and try and find a teammate, even if it doesn't come off, puts defenders on their toes, doesn't it? And it makes them think twice about how they're going to get rid of the ball and move it around. So. He's such an asset to us, and now he's Welsh as well. Well, he's one of us, Mark. So
yeah, we'll get that later
makes
on.
It even better.
He's been catapulted into the Welsh squad. Who knows? But I sort of like the way that his second goal was a mistake by the goalkeeper. He should have saved it. And Mullin turned around and didn't really celebrate it, as if he looked embarrassed. Yeah. And I thought, I quite like the idea as well that he likes to score the perfect goal. We had Don Vos on last season talking about how that amazing goal against Gateshead, he doesn't really like it because he feels that the keeper should have saved it. The artist who wants perfection. I quite like that in Mullin. He was disappointed he was disappointed himself he didn't get the shot right rather than celebrating the goal. I like that attitude of I want to get it perfect. I want to get it right. I want to nail this at 10 out of 10.
And speaking of perfect goals, Jordan Davies, what a goal that was. Yeah. I mean, we sit in the Rex rent, so we're right behind the goal, and he had a shot that was so similar in the first half that it turns to the people I was with, and it was like, if that had just gone in, that would have been one of the best goals I've seen live. And obviously it's still just as good on the other end, but there's something about seeing it come in right in front of you that would have really topped it off for that second goal. Unbelievable. And to have the audacity to try the same sort of shot twice because he knew he'd beaten the keeper was you just love to see it, don't you?
He's a sort of bloke who you feel one day will score the greatest hat trick of all time. And maybe he did at Halifax, to be fair, but the way, like I say, we did exactly the same in the commentary. Che and Neil Williams and we were all saying with that shot with then just wide in the first half. Oh my! Imagine if that had gone in. And we didn't have to imagine. 20 minutes later, we saw it happen. What a he's a beautiful, pure striker of the ball. It almost makes it feel weird when he mishits it because he just can't. He can't quite believe it. He's so consistently good, isn't he? Hitting the target like that, it's remarkable. It's a shame we don't have sort of proper stats at our level because his XG figures must be much lower than the goals he scores. He gets so many from outside the box.
Yeah, and he's got a good head on him as well, though, isn't he? As much as he's got these rockets in his boots, he's got a really good head. I'd love to see him score a perfect hat trick, left foot, right foot header.
Yeah,
that's I don't know whether I've ever actually seen one of them in person, but he's the type of player that can pull that off, isn't he? And again, just like Mullin, another potential candidate for Welsh selection and another one of our own. So
yeah,
it's a good time to be a Wrexham fan, Mark, isn't it?
It is quite fun, isn't it? I'm going to this is quite fun at the moment. Jordan Davies, right? Okay, let's see how two-footed he is. I keep some quite sad stats. He has scored this season. He hasn't scored with his right foot this season.
No.
I thought he might have done. Mullin, 10 with his right, 3 with his left. So he's mixing it around a bit. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Palmer's the one that spreads it around the most. 2 with his head, 1 with his left, 2 with his right. So he's the one who's mixing it around the most. Aaron Hayden, 9 feet, 6 with his head.
Brilliant. I mean, it was interesting listening to one of the podcasts. I can't remember after which game it was. I think it was the Aldershot, but it was nice to see more of Palmer's passing game, wasn't it? And his ability to sort of hold the ball off and lay it off to Mullin and other people. And I think the Wealdstone game, there was a few people who just around me, like not being overly critical, but just saying he was slow and he didn't really move very well. But I think he clearly suits playing other people in more than he does necessarily being the lone striker. And we don't need to use his pace when you've got Mullin and Davies making the runs off him.
Yeah, exactly. I something that's pleased me about the transfer window is that it really feels like we bought missing jigsaw pieces. And I might sound silly this, but I like a manager where I can sort of see what they're trying to do. I'm not saying I don't want them to surprise the opposition. I'm not saying that at all, but I quite like that I can see what our overall strategy is. And conversely, there were times with Wilkin and Mills where you would be presented with a team sheet before the match and you couldn't work out where some of the players would play. I like understanding what our process is, and you just look at it and you think, well, as you mentioned last week, maybe Bryce Susanna on the left, who does very well, but he's right-footed, maybe, although he caused major problems with his pace, it's a bit difficult for him perhaps to deliver crosses as well, going around the outside. So he brings in McFadden, who clearly is very good at putting the ball into good areas to be attacked. So he addresses an issue there. And then he needs a midfielder with a bit of authority. So he brings in O'Connor. But that has the knock-on effect of releasing, Young to an extent, but more Davies to drive forwards into those attacking positions. And then Palmer, as you say, I totally agree. I've seen the videos. I know that one of his major strengths is his ability to hold the ball up, turn, and play ambitious passes. And until maybe that game, the Aldershot game, we hadn't seen that much of that part of his. We see lots of other parts of his game, which have done really well. But that was the game for the first time when we had, Davies a bit more free to run on, Mullin alongside him, and he's got two players running into dangerous positions and making the sort of intelligent runs that a player like him can spot and feed. And I think it's no surprise, as you rightly say, that suddenly we see the foot on the ball Palmer a lot more, because you've now got two high-level players on the same wavelength making those great runs into great positions for him to pick out.
Yeah, and I think spot on, Mark. And it's, Parkinson's come into some criticism during the year, maybe some rightly, maybe some wrongly. And, sometimes managers will look, you hear fans going, oh, we need this player, we need that player. And then they don't get bought. It's like, oh, we should have bought this player. We should. And you get it. The fans aren't always wrong. I think it's a misconception amongst maybe some of the football community that fans don't know what they're talking about, because there's a lot of people who are quite knowledgeable. They go to the games every week. They've watched hundreds of thousands of games of football. They do know what they're talking about to a degree, but Parkinson's gone and got the players that everybody wanted. That's better than we were probably expected to get. And like you brightly say, they fit completely perfectly into our system. So he's got to get the credit for that, 100%.
I agree completely. And also, let's not forget that we've still got scope to improve. We have yet to play Mullin and O'Connor in the same side. And so those benefits that we're getting, because we were playing two weak teams this week, we were able to replicate it, weren't we, with Young sitting in. But we have yet to see the real, what I would call probably the full strength team yet. So that's also rather promising, isn't it? When we're looking to build up a head of momentum, that we're showing genuine signs of improvement, but there's probably more to come.
Yeah, definitely. It will be interesting to see how Mullin and O'Connor link up on it, definitely.
Oh, absolutely. Or just the fact that he could release Davies even more to be free. So, wow, that's the thought of this.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I reckon we've done the Aldershot game. After this...
and more.
And just a little bit more, yeah. So after this, maybe we'll move on to a little bit of Kings Lynn fun.
Playing the music you love. This is Calon FM.
So we battered Aldershot, and then we didn't batter Kings Lynn as such, but it was a very comfortable win, wasn't
it? It's alluding back to the playoff final season. And I sort of mentioned earlier that a lot of people got fed up that we were getting points but not getting results. We haven't seen a team really grind out wins in second gear since that season, I think. Last year, a lot of people didn't quite like how Keats set up, but we ground out wins. But I think we had to work hard to get those wins. Whereas that was a game where we were coasting, and I mean, it should have been 4 or 5 if it wasn't for the keeper. And I think there was an element of the players thought, we've won this, and then just kind of took their foot off the gas. And it's frustrating when you're in the stadium and you're sitting there and you're like, come on, I just want to see another goal, because everyone does, especially when we're kicking towards the Wrexham in the second half. But you can't complain when a team coasts that easily, can you?
Well, exactly. I mean, the analogy I keep coming back to is that we went down the gears a bit, and actually for a spell, possibly in the second half, went a gear lower than we probably meant to. And
yeah,
I wouldn't say let them back in the game, but we let them get on top of the game for a bit, but they still didn't threaten us. And the ironic thing for me is that we scored 2 goals in the first half when we are getting at them. And then the second half, when we've eased off a bit, to be fair, that keeper made 3 or 4 very good saves, 2 of which were absolutely fabulous. So even when we were easing off, if he hadn't done so well, because the save he made from Hayden, where he went low to his left, that was brilliant, that I thought. And then the one from Palmer, I must say, at the time, I just thought it's unbelievable that he's got out so quickly to get the block on it. I thought he just made himself big. But when you look back at the video, he's got his hand across to it. He's moved and his hand to it. It's an unbelievable save, that second one.
I'd have to look at I've seen the goals back, but I haven't seen the chances back. And I'd have to look again. But being in the Wrexham stand, how he got to that Hayden header, I do not know. I think, has it touched the post just before it's touched his hand? Does it hit the post and would have gone in, but he's managed to save it? That's what it's.
Yeah.
But memory's a little bit hazy about it. I can't really it was so.
Yeah.
I usually wait to celebrate. I'm a little bit on the cautious side, but I was like, yeah, getting up. That was it. But no, it was a fantastic save.
I was thinking about that as well. For anybody who watches the footage on YouTube or on Wrexham Player, the reaction of the crowd was greater than the video makes it look like. The video makes it look like the crowd is sort of going, oh, that was close. But no, the actual experience of being there was the crowd started celebrating. Definitely. The crowd, like you said, the crowd was celebrating a goal. And somehow the keeper scooped it out. I'm not sure if it hit the post or not, but it was an amazing save. And then the one to put onto the bar was just madness.
Yeah, hats off to him, and it's kind of lucky that the rest of their team weren't up to scratch, because those kind of saves can galvanize a team, can't they? You even at 2-0 down, you can pull that off. It gives the rest of the team a real lift, doesn't it? That confidence boost that you get from a keeper having a good performance. And like you say, we let them back in a little bit. They could have had, if they'd put one of those opportunities away, it would have been game on, I think. But it didn't, and we won. So happy days. And
it never really felt like that would happen, did it? To be honest, we kept them at arm's
length
comfortably. It was quite fun seeing Gold Amatayo getting roughed up a little bit by Tozer and Hayden, I thought.
Yeah. He's a big lad, isn't he? To be fair, the cameras don't do justice to the size of him. He's a physical person, isn't he?
But that wonderful passage of play where he tried to lean into Hayden, and just for a second it looked like he'd succeeded. And then Hayden just thought, oh, somebody's actually trying to inconvenience me, and just turned it up a notch, knocked him over, and then ran down the wing. But at the end of it, there was a shot on goal, not a great one, but he managed to start a move up the other end of the pitch. But it was just typical Hayden. He's just bosses things, the old Red Baron, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's a real risk that this is turning into Baronheart, but in fairness, he deserves it, doesn't he? Because
it'll always be Dragonheart.
Dragonheart, yeah. He's just like I'm running out of words to describe how good that man is. He's what an absolutely fantastic player, and to be able to boss opposition forwards who are the size of Amatayo like that, he's just pure quality, isn't he?
Absolutely. And as well, I think it slightly draws attention away from the fact that Tozer's outstanding. Tozer's a wonderful centre-back. He should not be playing at this level. He is so authoritative. He's just in control of situations. And, I have a real sense of calm if a striker gets through and Tozer's the last defender and he's running at Tozer. Tozer just takes him off to the side. And then, quite low key, just takes the ball off him. He's terrifically physical, but he's very good at gauging when to commit and how to cut down the space between him and the striker and just force them to go where he wants them to go. Siphon them away from goal, or even if sometimes if a player looks like they got the pace maybe to burst past him, he's very good at holding them up and just letting the rest of the defence get back into place. He's a very intelligent defender, I think, and although his passing was weirdly erratic on Tuesday, normally I like his passing. I think that's a big part of our approach. But his defending still was impeccable.
Yeah, and I think the quality that them two bring has really brought Max Cleworth's game up, hasn't it? Who also deserves a bit of a shout out. Is this potentially the most balanced back three, or the most balanced set of centre backs we've had in a long time? I mean, is it even the best pair of centre backs we've had since Beast and that nice Percival in Tozer Hayden?
That's a hell of a question, isn't it? Because remember, between them, we've also had Sean Pearson and Manny Smith. So we've been a bit spoiled to centre backs, haven't we?
We have, to be fair, but in terms of partnerships, I know we play in a three, but Tozer Hayden, who are the consistent ones, because Lennon and Cleworth have sort of swapped in and out, our best partnership since Knight Percival and Crichton. I'd like to think they are. I mean, the proof will be in the pudding by the end of the season. But I don't know. I love them. I love a good centre back, Mark. These two are a hell of a pair. And And Clough really is benefiting from being with them.
Well, no question. And also McFadden outside him, he combines us superbly, doesn't he? They interchange their positions really well when we've got the ball. I'm going to try and pull off a really elaborate form of fence sitting here. So are these two the best pair of centre-backs we've had since Knight Percival and Crichton? I'm going to say maybe not, because Manny Smith and Sean Pearson were an excellent combination. But I'm also going to say maybe they are better than Crichton and Knight Percival. And we should have to go back further to find a pairing. That's world-class defence, isn't that?
That is, you're almost making like a triangle of options, but not picking any of them.
I'm seeing it like a sort of 3D parallelogram. Is how I'm doing it. I'm doing a Three Witches Macbeth stunt. They are greater than Crichton and Knight Percival, but not so great. Yeah. Banquo. Yeah.
So
fans love Banquo. Kids love Banquo.
What's your thinking then behind these two being better than Crichton and Knight Percival?
Well, I'm not saying they are, but I think it's a tight call. Crichton was a superb stopper. If you want an out-and-out aggressive bloke to win the ball and attack it, he's your man. Fantastic player for us, and a real force of nature. But that's exactly how I describe Aaron Hayden. I mean, Hayden is a force of nature, isn't he? And he's quicker than Crichton. Yeah. So if you have those two as stoppers, and then Tozer, I mean, he's a similar size and a level of authority. It's just that in the middle of the three, he doesn't have to play as a stopper so much. And then in terms of the player who has pace and can come out of the ball, I thought Knight Percival is outstanding. I mean, the fact that he's gone on to have a good career in Football League shows that. Hayden, probably a little quicker, I would say, possibly. Certainly more physical, although Knight Percival has no problems physically. You know, I think it's a tight call between them. I genuinely would say so. And like I say, to throw Pearson and Smith in. I mean, Pearson, to stop a role, insatiable desire to win everything, a real scrapper. And the way that he picked her up when Keats first came in for the second spell, I think Keats was a little worried that Pearson's legs had gone. We let in some goals where the ball got in behind him. Most notably at Chesterfield, I seem to remember, where he was struggling to deal with the long ball and gave it away or missed it, and they scored. But he rehabilitated, and then he got injured as well. But last season, he rehabilitated himself superbly in the second half of the season. And I just thought that, that was good as well. You think, maybe this is the end for Pearson now. And then he comes back after a nasty injury and he's at the levels he was when he signed for us. That's superb. And then Manny Smith was gloriously reliable. Times when he's caught out of position, times when he's made an actual mistake were rare. They tended, frankly, to happen with Gary Mills, who didn't seem to trust him as much as other managers did, and would often play him at right back, which was ludicrous. Or would play him in a 3, which definitely didn't suit him as much as a 4. He was just a solid bread and butter, old-fashioned back 4 centre-back, isn't he, really? Albert by penalty
definitely.
Area. He wasn't that comfortable going forwards, really. Playing him at full-back was lunacy. I remember writing a thing up at the time when he came back, which looked at his the team stats in terms of goals conceded when he played in a 4, when he played on the side of a 3, and when he played as a fullback, and the contrast was spectacular. We let very few goals in when he played in a back 4, a lot more per 90 minutes when he played in a 3, and a lot more again when he played as a fullback. I mean, it was just, why would you have such an obvious born centre back and not play him at centre back? I mean, it was just lunacy. But no, I rate all of them. Ashley Westwood was quite good, no?
Yeah, definitely. And even political points of view aside, Martin Riley was a decent player. We've done all right for centre-backs, haven't we, really, to be fair, over the years. It's the one position that we've not actually really completely suffered in. Even Fiacre Kelleher last year, I really highly rated.
And Vassell?
Yeah.
Vassell's a good all-round player. I'm not surprised he's doing well now in the Football League, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, he's Salford, isn't he?
Yeah. And if I could throw a couple other names, if it's looking at the great National League centre-backs, Aurélien Collin was a very good centre-back, I thought, and I'm ashamed we didn't keep him for longer. And he went off and won the MLS and was a real cult hero in the MLS. I thought Mani Sumani was a decent centre-back as well. He had
Sumani, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, I know he's all right. He was perfectly reliable, I thought he was. He was, a good aggressive defender. And I also thought Kieran Kennedy was, he had something. And it was a shame that he chose not to come back. I think he made a mistake. I think he probably realises that now as he ended up playing at the level below us now, isn't he? But, he could have come back to us and chose not to. And I think he under Keats, he could have done it. And I think he made a mistake there, I think, which is a shame. So I think he was a good all-round defender who could play full-back as well. That's his problem, not mine.
What about the partnership then? Obviously, our best, we haven't talked about it. Frank Sinclair and Marvin Andrews together.
Oh, oh, Marvin. Marvin was quite the character when he fair play to him.
He was, yeah.
It's a nice sort of jovial, gentle bloke, but I was still terrified to interview him because he had such a scary look on his face. He'd come out.
Yeah.
And he's a nice fella.
He really is. He's one of those great guy. Never met him, but he does his like look doesn't suit his personality, does it? Going on from what he looks like on Twitter.
Yeah, although the way that he, I think it maybe suits his personality in the sense of as a player, perhaps, of being uncompromising.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think if I've said this before. I remember he made his debut at Eastbourne. I'm not saying it's a long way by train to Eastbourne, but on the way down, I read his whole autobiography. But the bit about his childhood in Trinidad is unbelievable. He talks about how he thinks that he became a tough player because he used to play barefoot on rocks. And you think, oh, okay.
That would do that for you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think he was quite a strong fella, quite strong-willed.
Yeah.
But bless him, a nice chap. You know what? This whole Kings Lynn thing, firstly, we've managed to go through it without mentioning Steve Cleeve once. And secondly, we managed to go through it without really mentioning Kings Lynn all that much. So, the game itself.
We've done this today, Mark. We've gotten distracted, haven't we?
It's fun.
I think, yeah. the thing is with Kings Lynn game, look, you could... Let's not mention Steve Cleeve. He's not worth the oxygen for Wrexham FC, is he? Did he even come to the game?
He wasn't there. No.
No. Well, good. Doesn't don't need him around doing that negativity that he brings. I'm sure not everything he does as a person is completely bad or wrong, but it would have just been toxic if he'd have been there. It wouldn't have been worth his time with it or ours.
Yeah.
And in terms of the game. I think more performances like that for the rest of the season. We keep picking 3 points up. I don't really care whether we look poor in the second half. A win's a win. Yeah. So let's keep going.
Well, people keep looking worriedly at Stockport and saying, oh, they're going to win it. Well, they've been scraping wins lately. On Saturday, they beat Weymouth 1-0 through an own goal. And their fans are saying that their performances are dipping, but they still get the results. That's what matters if we have the occasion one like that.
Yeah.
But this wasn't that. This was us bossing a game and earning the right to take it easy in the second half. So
exactly.
Looks promising to me. So after this, we'll have a chat about how Wrexham will soon be the spine of Wales's team.
I'm Harry Lennon and this is Dragonheart.
Wales, of course, have got a new star in the firmament. Paul Mullin definitively, and possibly to help shift mug sales, has declared for Wales. And, well, I mean, it led to an interesting debate. We ran a poll among fans during the match on Tuesday about, should Wales actually select Mullin straight away? 44% of fans said yes. There were 3 other options, like, wait till the friendlies, things like that. So Wrexham fans certainly seem quite keen to see Mullin in a Wales shirt. Is it a bit pie in the sky at the moment, though, or is there something to this?
I think it's pie in the sky. It's been a long time since Wrexham have had players in the squad that were playing for Wrexham, and and rightly so. We're in the conference. Let's not be deluded. The National League is the fifth tier of the English system, and we've got players that are playing in the Premier League. Mullin is real quality. I'd love to see him and Davies both get a chance at a friendly, but I think that's the avenue to start with. And let's see, you got to let Rob Page have a look at how well they perform. I think if Wales were in a slightly different position, we've got playoff games coming up, and we could be at a World Cup, well, it's this year, isn't it? Next season, but
yeah.
If Rob Page wants to take World Cup qualification seriously, it's not the time to be experimenting with conference players, is it?
No.
I don't think. Maybe I'd love to see it, Mark. I'd absolutely love to see a current red in a Wales shirt, but maybe not the time. Maybe not the time, especially not for Davies. I think Davies is playing really well, but Wales have got enough quality in that midfield position that he maybe just misses out, unless it's a friendly or like a 28-man squad where they're bringing some youngsters in just to come and experience what the Welsh setup's like. Mullin has a bit more of a chance because Wales haven't got quite as many strikers, but when you've got Brennan Johnson firing on all cylinders for Nottingham, and Kiefer Moore might come back after his injury, and a couple of other players. I know Dan James doesn't play as a striker, but he's an attacking player that takes up a position, doesn't he? There's too much quality at the moment for me.
Yeah, it's nice that he's declared that, and it maybe is one of the reasons why it's quite good to come to Wrexham, because it wouldn't have occurred to him to have declared that until he came to Wrexham. Now he's thinking, oh, I'll never be an England player, but I could become international. And that might be something we can use to encourage people to join us. As you say, I just got up the squads that was named for the November internationals. And yeah, we're fairly thin on the ground in terms of out-and-out strikers. I mean, got Bale and James, but they don't really play through the middle generally. I mean, the fact that James has had to play through the middle at Leeds is probably a big part of why Bielsa's been sacked. I'm not criticising James. I think he's a great player, but that's not his position. They say Kiefer Moore's injured. The other strikers they named are Tyler Roberts and Mark Harris, who of course was at Wrexham a couple of seasons ago. In fact, there's his boot. Tyler Harris's boot from when we drew at Notts County. He split it open and threw it away. And it was sitting on the side of the pitch while we were waiting for the press. And I said, what's going to happen to that? And Club Secretary Geraint Barry said, it'll be thrown in a skip. And I said, well, I'll have it then. So I have my Wrexham boots, my Wales international boots. Ooh,
no way.
It smells horrific. Nonetheless, there's no real obvious, apart from more obvious first choice strikers as such. But yeah, certainly not for the playoffs. Mullin's got, the maybe the friendlies you might look at him, but it's the playoffs. You stick with what you got, and I think as in terms of Davies, I think Davies has much more got a case, and another but like you say, that area of the pitch is very well stocked with good internationals, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the issue for him, in his favour though, is he has come through the Welsh system, and you could argue that Wales is so focused, and rightly, and has done superbly, from really building up its coaching badges courses, by taking that seriously, by introducing a culture of valuing the UEFA badges and bringing young lads through and bringing the internationals through those age levels. That counts for Davies, maybe against Mullin, because players might say, well, I thought the idea was we're being groomed year in, year out in the different age groups. Why have we dropped a player ahead of us? Whereas Davies has come through that. But then again, looking at that squad, Aaron Ramsey, Joe Allen, Johnny Williams, Harry Wilson, Joe Morrell, Will Vaux, I can never say his name, and Colwill, young midfielders like Colwill, who, have caught the eye, Dylan Levitt. So, there's a lot of young lads as well, which is the same for Davies. I'd imagine he's older than Colwill and Levitt, I'd imagine, as well. So, yeah. But I think Davies has got that extra something that he clearly should be given a chance at a higher level, and it could suit international football.
Yeah, definitely. I really think there is an opportunity for them at some point. I think maybe just the timing in terms of what Wales are trying to achieve at the moment just goes against them a little bit. If we were in an off season, so there was no Euros or World Cup, and we were playing a couple of summer friendlies, playing, I don't know, Costa Rica or something in a friendly, then you'd think, yeah, they've got a chance of at least being named in the squad, but it's maybe just not the time. Unfortunately, but maybe any of those players get injured, and Rob Page is really going to be having to dig through the players, isn't he, for Wales? So it's not completely out there for Mullin, I don't think, up front.
Well, we'll see how it goes for him. I mean, although the Qatar World Cup being played in the winter, I've got to ask the question. I know that the Premier League will be suspended, the Championship, but the National League certainly won't be. And if we go up, I assume League Two won't be. Maybe I should have looked that up before saying that. But we don't think we'll lose.
Mullin's English, really, isn't he? He's English. He can't be called up for Wales if we get to the World Cup. He's not. He's I think he's making it up about his nan or whatever it is.
Unquestionably. Well said. Don't tell Gwynfor Palmer that he can play for us either. Well, time's nearly up for us, but we are going to have a quick chat about a serious matter in a moment, which is the increased number of flares we're seeing at matches.
This is Sean Brisley. This is Dragonheart.
Yeah, we would be remiss, I think, if we didn't mention that we're seeing more and more flares being brought to matches and flares being thrown on the pitch. The Chesterfield game was held up twice because of it. And it's just profoundly frustrating to see that happening. There's a little bit of me thinks I understand that people want to have a bit of excitement and that the TV coverage of football and in general in the media glamorizes things like that. You show like ultras in Milan or somewhere with the flares. And I do understand how that looks attractive. I do understand that. And I think that the media has a bit of blame to take on this. But the fact is, I mean, they're dangerous. They go up to terrific heats. There was a 14-year-old kid was burned, wasn't he, at Chesterfield? They can start fires, obviously. They can go off. I remember an instance where a steward lost fingers trying to retrieve a flare. They're toxic. We need to create atmosphere by making constant noise, I think, rather than doing things like that.
Agreed. And there's ways and means. If you're going to spend money on flares, why not put that into getting a customized flag for yourself, which you can then keep for X amount of time that it lasts for. I've bought flags in the past. You can design it yourself. They cost 40 quid. I don't know how much flares cost. I've never really looked into it, but you've got that forever then as a memento. It's a shame. And talking from a purely footballing point of view, which this isn't really, but that game gets held up at Chesterfield. You give them a chance to regroup and maybe reconsider tactically what they need to do. If they're waiting for 2 or 3 minutes, they've got a chance to not be hit on the break for a second time.
I've got to say, I strongly agree with that. That Chesterfield game, we built up such momentum after half time. We scored the first goal. Flare goes on the pitch. Game's held up for a couple of minutes, and Chesterfield reacted really well to the goal. Who knows how they might have reacted had we got straight back. We might have gone straight back at them again. We were a bit lucky not to let an equaliser. Langton made a brilliant save. And then we get back on top, score a second, then we have to wait again. It doesn't help the team in the slightest. And of course, it will cost us money. And I don't like this idea. I've seen people suggesting, we got money now. That doesn't mean we can afford to be paying fines left, right and centre. That's how you drive money out of a club. If an owner gets sick of people doing things like that, that's how you drive someone out. For goodness sake, I mean, if we did that, we'd be the biggest bunch of mugs you've ever seen on this planet, wouldn't we?
Yeah. And fines tend to be sort of like incremental. So they'll not quite double, but they'll go up by a certain portion each time. So there's going to come to a point where it's going to be a real big fine that could cost the players wages for a month that we then maybe don't sign in a January transfer window or something. Because
we are looking to run it sustainably. We can't afford to throw money away. Also, I mean, I did look into it a little bit. Maximum maximum punishment for bringing a fine. And I should point out, the law says what's illegal is having a flare and having the intention to bring it into a football ground. So if you're in a service station and a policeman stops you and says, can I look in the boot of your car, and you got a flare in there, and you say, I'm going to let that off in the ground, you are guilty as much as if you threw it on the pitch. So,
oh wow, really?
There are two offences: using it and having the intent to bring it into a ground. And the maximum sentence is 3 years in prison. And from what I was reading after the Chesterfield game, it seems that there's a sort of desire within the judicial system to actually apply the maximum penalty as much as possible.
Right.
So it's not one of those, you could get up to this for this offence, but you're not going to really. There is an attempt to sort of make an example out of this. It's getting banned in more and more scenarios. It's just got banned in festivals. The fact is that they're looking to make an example of as many people as possible. I think rightly. And so you are running a serious risk of spending 3 years in jail and a fine. So, bit of a no-brainer what to do about flares, I'd say.
Yeah, and they're the worst type of jeans you can buy anyway, so don't bring those horrible 70s fashion disasters with you to the ground.
Absolutely.
It's not worth it.
Well, beautifully put. Well, I'm going to slip into some corduroys and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you so much, Bill. It's always a pleasure.
Great stuff. Thank you, Mark.
Nice one. And I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. This was Dragonheart.